early in the game, you came in, got a hard foul, flagrant fouls to your face, smack to the face. What was your reaction to that? Did that spot fire up any change anything mentality wise?
I mean, there's levels to this shit, so I'm not gonna fight with that.
Oh, yes, Marina Mabrey, there are levels to this S, and we are going to go through all of the different levels of Chicago versus the Sun and Chennedy Carter's hard foul on Marina Mabrey. Was it a cheap shot by Chennedy or just a hard foul? As well, did Weatherspoon order the code red on Mabrey? Did you order the code red? And does Tina Charles really offer insight on what is going on between the Chicago Sky and Marina Mabrey? And then finally, what sort of culture is Teresa Weatherspoon building for the Chicago Sky? Is it good culture or bad culture? We will take a look at it all, but before we start, if you enjoy the content, then please consider subscribing to the channel and giving the video a like. Okay, so let's get into this. First, the foul. This is not the first hard foul in the history of the WNBA and certainly won't be the last. How dirty was it? Was she just hammering down on her arm to prevent Marina Mabrey from making any sort of shot attempt, or was this just totally vicious and intentional? In truth, only Chennedy Carter will know if this was intentional or not. All the talking heads will go on there saying how of course it was intentional and this is what she meant to do and she should be suspended. I think ultimately she probably will be suspended for a game, and that is more based on her history, as she previously had the cheap shot on Caitlin Clark, which has put her on the radar for WNBA fans that are calling for her head. And with this one, it just looks really bad as she comes down with force with her arm. If you look at it in slow motion replay, look at the reaction behind on the Chicago bench. It's one of their assistant or part of the Chicago staff. Look at the lady over there putting the hand over the mouth going, ooh, that's a big shot that she just laid on her. Now, Mabrey was very fortunate. It was just a glancing blow that she didn't get all of her with that forearm, as that would have been a broken nose. In these leagues, all of them, whether it be NFL, NBA, WNBA, they are all very nervous about lawsuits for concussion injuries and want to be seen doing the best they can to protect the brain. I think she will go down because of that, because it's a strike to the head with force. However, I would say most players, whether it be WNBA or NFL or NBA, would say the thing they are most worried about is their legs. And it's interesting because later in the game, Chennedy Carter almost gets taken out, or her knee almost gets taken out, because Thomas pushes Reese in the back and Reese goes falling into Chennedy Carter's knee. That easily could have torn up her knee. And then this leads me into Chennedy Carter's buddy, Liz Cambage, when she threw the cheap shot when she was over in Australia on Misty Bass with the knee. And I think that is more egregious than this cheap shot. If it is indeed an intentional cheap shot on Mabrey, I think the one thrown by Cambage is more egregious, because the general code is stay the way, or don't mess with the legs. And in this game, you can make the argument Thomas wasn't intentionally trying to push Reese into Chennedy Carter's leg to hurt her legs. But in terms of danger and risk, I would say the Liz Cambage cheap shot and the one by Thomas, the push that resulted in Reese almost taking out Chennedy Carter's knee, those were the most dangerous plays in the game, or most career threatening. But because Chennedy has painted a target on her back, I do think she will, like I said before, get suspended. And this is due in large part to the narrative or story being shaped about her, that she's an out-of-control player that can get hostile, and if she gets frustrated, she will lash out at other players. And in a lot of ways, this is the story that's going to be shaped about the Chicago Sky, as they are quickly getting a reputation as Team Thug, because after the Chennedy Carter shot, she is talking on the sideline to Teresa Weatherspoon, the head coach, and Weatherspoon has a grin, and I don't know what they're speaking about. They might be talking about what they're going to have for dinner, but it's just a bad look and helps shape that narrative that Weatherspoon ordered the code red, was happy with her player giving a nice little nasty shot to Mabrey, and that's the way we do it in Chicago.
He pulls a knife, you pull a gun. He sends one of yours to the hospital, you send one of his to the morgue. That's the Chicago way.
Now, as Mabrey said, there are a lot of layers to this S. I totally agree with that. After I did a video on why Marina Mabrey wanted to be traded and just she was sick of being with a young, immature team. Some people called me out on that. It seemed like a lot of the comments were that Mabrey played so bad for Chicago and cost them a couple of games due to missing free throws, and that wasn't the point of the video. The point of the video was explaining from Mabrey's perspective why she did not want to be there. And she uses a lot of code during the press conference talking about how happy she is being with the Sun because they move the ball and it's easy to play with them because they're very unselfish, and she'll just fit in wherever they need her to help the team win, as she's just a total team player. Whatever they need, she will do.
What about this team and these players that make it so easy kind of just to jump into?
Just like first welcoming me in, like sometimes when you get a new player and you're used to like your chemistry, you have to sacrifice for that player. So I appreciate that. And then also just moving the ball and being in a read and react offense is really good because everybody's unselfish and whoever's open gets the ball. So, and then also just being able to create an attack for everybody else on the team. They play really well off the ball too. So it makes it a lot easier for me too.
Marina, were you comfortable coming off the bench? And is that a role that you'd be down to play, or what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I'm just gonna do what the team needs. So if it means that this game they wanted to bring me off the bench, some games I might start, some games I might not. Like, I just want to help us get a ring.
But the other layer to this is there is no doubt that the Chicago Sky are pissed off with Marina Mabrey, and they should be. She just begged to get off their team and said that they weren't worthy of her being her teammate. So this is the way it should be, and this has happened before. A few years ago, Tina Charles was playing for the Phoenix Mercury, and she was unhappy. I can't remember if she wasn't starting or didn't like that she wasn't getting the ball enough, but she begged off that team and then signed with the Dallas Wings after being released by the Mercury. And then a few games later, after Tina Charles had signed with the Dallas Wings, the Mercury went and played them at Dallas, and they upset them and beat them, and it was just sheer delight for the Mercury. Famously, Sophie Cunningham got caught on a hot mic saying F Tina Charles, and they were dancing because they were so happy that they'd put it to her. And during the post-game press conference, the Sun coach Stephanie White, she outlined this. She's like, it's always awkward when an opposing player goes up against their old team. It's competitive. It gets a little bit over the line at times. That's just the way it is. And I agree with that. The thing that Chicago's got to, be kicking themselves is they had a chance to win this game. They were up 3 with 1:26 left and had the ball. Chennedy Carter airballed with Mabrey guarding her. Now, Mabrey doesn't get off scot-free as she airballed the play prior, I believe, against Bantam. And then after that, they didn't score again. And Chicago fans probably don't like the change or overrule in the call with the charge being given to Chennedy Carter on Carrington. I didn't like it either, actually. I hate it when they give the charge, personally. It just leads to more flopping seals in the WNBA, which we have enough of already. But as well, I didn't like that the ticky-tacky foul on Bonner as well. I didn't think that. I thought that was too soft to call at the end of the game. But despite that, they still had their chance to win, didn't get it done, which really cost them the ultimate revenge on Marina Mabrey for wanting out of Chicago. And then as well in the post-game press conference, Thomas gave it to them a little bit with a subtle dig, talking about how Mabrey came off the bench with 24 points and outscored the entire Chicago bench.
And also 24 points in 24 minutes off the bench. I mean, she literally outscored their whole bench alone. So, I mean, it was huge for us today.
Which leads me to how the Sun and the Chicago Sky really do not like each other. They have no time for each other. It's clear that Thomas and Reese are not on each other's Christmas and birthday party list. It was early in the game where they got tangled up, and you can just see they don't like each other. There was one point where Thomas was guarding Reese, and she took great pleasure in keeping Reese from scoring as well, the little push. And then the previous game where she had the nasty cheap shot on Reese with a horse collar pull down, and And what I see here is a bully doesn't like a bully. That's essentially what it is. These two teams, it's like looking at a mirror. The Connecticut Sun are what the Chicago Sky are basically looking to become or might become as they get older and more experience going forward. And for me, I am here for it. I am not clutching my pearls going, oh my goodness, this is egregious and I'm worried about basketball. No, that's fine. Dig in. This can be the ugly game. I mean, in a lot of parts, this was like a rock fight because neither team could make a basket early on, and I'm fine with that. Now, in the intro, I mentioned, is there a schism in the Chicago Sky team? And if you don't know, the big fancy word by me, a split or division between strongly opposed sections or parties caused by a difference in opinion or belief. Look at the big brain on Back to Sports. But is there a schism? Yes, I think there is. And is that a big deal? No, I don't. Take, for instance, UConn, seeing that this game was in Connecticut. UConn, when Diana Taurasi came in, she was a punk, and the old seniors did not like her. They locked her in the bathroom as the old players did not like the young punks, and that happens all the time. You have divisions in a team all the time. I wouldn't clutch my pearls over this or think it's a big deal. But it was noticeable during the press conference when Lindsey Allen sort of pointed out that they didn't follow their game plan, and that's been an issue all season.
I think just our defense. We didn't really do what we talked about doing in practice and then shoot around and according to the scouting report. So just locking in on that and continuing to do it consistently has been the issue for us all season. So just defensively.
And if you don't know, Lindsey Allen used to play at Notre Dame, and she played at the same time as Mabrey was playing there. You would figure that she would have a fairly similar mindset to Marina Mabrey, which would be at times getting frustrated with a fairly immature team. But Lindsey Allen does not have the cachet as Mabrey, so she can't beg out of town. She needs to keep her mouth shut and do the right thing, which she is doing. But I definitely feel there's sort of an old guard, young guard on that team. And I'm sure some of the older players sort of roll their eyes at what's going on at times. And this is what happened to Chennedy Carter in Atlanta. Some of the old vets like Courtney Williams didn't think that Chennedy Carter was buying in and being a good teammate, and hence that started their little disagreement, and then ultimately management sided with Courtney Williams and vet players, and that's why she was shipped out to LA. LA was a mess, and hence when Kurt Miller got the job with the Sparks, he cut Chennedy Carter despite her being on a guaranteed contract, and brought in Jasmine Thomas from the Sun despite her coming off an ACL injury, as he wanted his culture that he had with the Connecticut Sun to be integrated into the LA Sparks. And I am now sure you are thinking that the Back to Sports guy is going to kill the Chicago Sky on their culture and say they have a whole bunch of bad apples and can't win. I'm not saying that. I think Weatherspoon has done something very, very smart. The Sky did not have a whole lot of assets or players because people wanted out of there because James Wade left. Their facilities were not good. That should be improving. And she looked at it and said, I need talent here. What is my best option? And what she has come up with is get talent with questionable character, and she judges them based on who and how they interact with her. So that allowed her to get Angel Reese down low in the draft at number 7, but this also allowed her to find loose change on the street, which was Chennedy Carter. And you will get a narrative that Chicago, they're a thug team and this is a terrible culture and it's all based on Weatherspoon, but I want to tell you about another thug team that is now looked back on and celebrated. The Oakland Raiders, or the Raiders because they went to LA as well, but in the 70s they were hated as they were renegades and they did everything wrong, but now they are celebrated. So the things that Lyle Alzado and Ted Hendricks and John Matuzak did at the time, they were the worst, and they were ill-disciplined, always getting penalties. And the initial leader of this renegade outfit was John Madden. And when he was a coach, he was not liked. He was overweight, he smoked, and generally most fans did not like him. Then he went into the booth, became a commentator, and he was America's commentator and drawing sketches of eating turkey, and became beloved, and that team became beloved over time. And overall, the players loved John Madden. They would run through a wall for him. And he basically said, I had 3 rules for my team. One was be on time, the other was pay attention, and the last one was play like hell on Sunday. And basically, if Weatherspoon is getting talented players like a Chennedy Carter or an Angel Reese, and she's getting them to play hard, then her culture is fine in my opinion. So far, it is undeniable that the Chicago Sky are overachieving over what most pundits thought they would be this season. And basically, that's because Weatherspoon has gotten talented players and they are playing hard for her. The question will be, will that continue over time? Will these players continue to play a team game, or could that turn into a situation where you have players chasing stats, chasing their shot? I think that's the long-term issue Chicago and Weatherspoon will have to rein in. It was notable when Reese was on the sideline when she had a chance for a 2020 game and it was garbage time and Weatherspoon had her out. I don't know if that was necessarily a statement to her. Yeah, I'm not letting you get garbage stats if we're getting our butts kicked. But if she keeps them playing team basketball and everybody working together, then that's fine by me. I don't worry in the least about Chennedy Carter talking trash to the Sun bench. Now go for it. All that's just external noise that others worry about. So as I said, many layers. So the veterans don't like the young upstart rookies and their culture. Mabrey asked out of there. I'm sure others wouldn't mind getting out of there. I suspect Allen would be happy to be traded or go to another team. Was the shot by Chennedy Carter dirty? It certainly looked like it. Only she knows if it was intentional or not, but I do think she will get a game suspension for the foul she put on Mabrey. And was I surprised that the game was intense versus the Sun and Sky? No, because it was a bully looking at a bully and playing each other, and then you had the added dynamic of a player leaving their team or begging to get out of there, so they wanted some payback on her. And now it's over to you for your say. Do you think the shot was dirty? Do you think it was intentionally dirty? Do you suspect, like me, that Lindsay Allen has much the same view that Marina Mabrey does, that they're playing for a clown college or basically a very immature team and sort of get sick of it? As well, do you think Weatherspoon is building a thug culture that must be stopped and dealt with immediately, or are they just the Raiders and not lovable yet as they have not been around long enough? Your thoughts, boys, and all is welcome. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a good night.